This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Today is Tuesday, June the 6th, 2023. We're so glad you could join us here today. Coming up a little later in the program, I talk with Iowa Agriculture Secretary Mike Naig about the recent Supreme Court decisions concerning Prop 12 and the Waters of the U.S. rule, and talk about his reactions to both, and we conversate about them just a little more deeply. We also take a look at that ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down those markets. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Well, we're at the end of another trading day, and it's time to talk with Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. Jacob, what did we see come out of that grain trade today?
Saw some fireworks, mostly ignited by the Kansas City wheat trade overnight, when we saw Russia, maybe retaliation from an ammonia pipeline situation that Ukraine went, and then they came in and put a bomb on one of their major waterways, and looking to flood some fields over there. So that story was out last night. 20 higher at one point in the KC wheat, to all the way down a dime here across the day. So we had a very wide, volatile trading session. Wheat market, corn stayed in there pretty strong. I mean, every day's been just a race to see who can view the GFS model runs versus the EU runs. How much rain are we going to have in the forecast for the next 2 weeks? And that's been the story, the whole story, and everything about it. You can talk exports, you can talk everything, but right now we're looking at what our supply situation is going to be like this fall. And at this point right now, today, it looks like we took a little bit out of the latest run of the forecast, and we saw some interested buyers here. That stacked onto the fact that we've probably the most deduction that we've ever seen in a good to excellent crop rating in the corn market from that first week that we put the estimates out there.
We knew this was probably going to be a massive weather market this year because of the fact that there is so much dryness in the Corn Belt, more in the west than in the east. But, the situation was everybody's been telling us, all the weather experts have been saying that, hey, this is going to be the year. The signs say this is going to be the year that turns around. However, the thing that nobody's been able to provide us is when is that going to turn around? And I heard from a farmer in southeast Iowa just overnight who said he's got 7-inch corn, but it's starting to curl, and his beans haven't made any progress in a few days. He says he's starting to worry if he's even going to get something. Now, that may be a little bit of a stretch in that situation, but the thing is, we still don't have water or enough water here in some of these states. Nebraska got a little rain. We got a little scattered showers last week, supposed to get some midweek, but that's not enough to bring things to the finish line.
Oh, no, I think, every producer out there has been in that position. I mean, 9 times out of 10 right here in the heart of the Midwest, you see guys feel that way and end up having a positive result on their yield. 2012 has to ring everybody's memory. I mean, I know there's been spotty differences, but to the point where, okay, you always have enough moisture until you don't, and those fears are there. And I talk risk management every day with people, and we talk about crop insurance, and that's the reason that we look at crop insurance heavily. And as a marketing guy, I encourage it, making sure that you have that so you can actively go out there and sell. But I think that that story is everywhere right now. I mean, that story is from down in southern Illinois, anything to the east mostly, and yeah, there's it's a real problem. We've had probably the best opportunity to get a large amount of corn in. I believe the acres will be there, and potentially even more acres, and we'll find that at the end of the month what we actually put in. But there's a real fear of production right now in some areas that look really, really good. I mean, you talk with Matt some down there in the central Illinois, had a great start, best start he feels like he ever had, to the point where now he's getting very worried in central Illinois. Some guys in Ohio and Indiana that are very worried about their production as well. So I think that we're at a point too that it's still early. If you look at all the different things, there's so many different graphs out there. You can cruise through Twitter, you can cruise through social media today and look at a lot of different things that will tell you, the rate that we're on is much worse than 2012. Just this early, having the decreased crop ratings, the dryness. But every producer that you talk to too will probably tell you that if we get a rain here in the next week, we're probably going to be okay. And so if you look at where we're at from a price standpoint, we've followed 2012, 2013. We've talked a lot more about 2013 than we have 12. Okay, we talked about 2013 as coming off of a very high year and watching the markets go down, how hopefully we get an opportunity to go back to the levels that we even started the year. And at this point right now, with the dryness concerns, we're at a point where we can go really, really high or really, really low. So the volatility, we talk a lot about volatility, but man, we're in a situation that could be extreme here.
And as you mentioned, the crop insurance situation, I mean, we're also in a situation right now where that crop insurance rate is really close to what the rates are per bushel right now on the markets as well.
Yeah, and we discussed that a lot. We went down to what did we go to 505? We went to 490. So that level, if you upped your SCO and you raised your crop insurance levels, you probably were in a claim situation if that's where we would have settled. So it kind of allows you to be creative with some of these option strategies of where to protect yourself and how to protect yourself. So if you produce your APH, you're probably down anywhere between 460 to 480 to see that claim. If you're in a normal year using 80-85%. So that's what I always encourage producers to remember is we look at crop insurance as a way to protect production. Okay, there's a good tool to produce price, but man, there's really a lot better ways to protect your price element of that through using some of these different tools that are available to you here on the board.
All right, so let's move over to the livestock side of things. We saw some great ends to the week last week for cattle and hogs. Hogs had a little bit of a backfill yesterday, but started out strong again today. How did those livestock markets end today?
I think I'm going to call it the Costco rally. I saw the reports earlier this week regarding the CEO of Costco talk about now he's seeing their numbers are telling them that the people are bypassing the beef in the grocery store and they're going into the pork and the chicken areas to find their protein. And so like we were up $4.17 today in July hogs, just a huge bounce off of what we've seen happen to this hog market over the last month, 2-3 months now, I guess you could probably say. And so we've had a really, really quick recovery. Seems like that's how the hogs trade. As vertically integrated as that market is, it seems that we see some spike highs and spike lows quite a bit. But this cattle market's for real. We sell the north trading 190, 191 in the cash market. You're seeing Texas and them trade over at $180. You're seeing record highs in feeder cattle contracts. We're up to 260 today in the June fats. We talk about 180 to 190 having a big $12 and even more difference between the north and south on what the cash is bringing. And then you come in here and see that the futures market was trading at 167 come last Friday or the 26th. So now we're at 180. Now we hit 180 in June fats today. It's a significant move where they had to come together somehow, and cash didn't give up here, and the packers continue to pay up. And the reason they can pay up is we're seeing box beef trade $3.14 or $314. So it's big, and right now it's still profitable for those packers. As long as they're making money, it's benefiting everybody right now.
Now, another thing with livestock, kind of bringing it back to the rain situation, we know in some of these areas of the Corn Belt, places like Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, we've been so dry. But you got places out in the western plains, even up into like Montana, where they've been seeing more rain than they know what to do with, which is great if they're trying to rebuild some of those pastures that were suffering the last couple of years. But what are we seeing for obtaining forage, especially like in places like Nebraska? I talked to a producer out there last week who said they've been feeding hay for a year. They haven't been able to graze cattle. I mean, what is that market looking like for people to be able to get that? And what effect can that have on the cattle market at this point?
Well, let's talk first of all psychological for those people. They're fun to talk to now. Before they weren't very fun to talk to because it was like you said, 2 years of just miserable. Feeding hay. You got all that land out there. You let them eat the grass down, and then you're already feeding hay in midsummer. And so it's a good blessing for these guys that they're able to come in here and be able to fill those pastures up. You look at these stocker cattle that can go either way. I mean, those guys are going just extremely high right now because there's so much pasture out there to fill, and it's not just Montana's. It's down in the panhandle of Texas. It's New Mexico. It's some of those areas that just we've talked about for 2 years is about how the drought monitor, we didn't even know if it could change, and finally we've seen some of those good rains, solid rains, consistent rains, prevent them from becoming the desert, and so hopefully we can have that trend can continue. But yeah, I mean, I think the big test here will be like in the future of seeing how much of these heifers get retained versus how much go into the feedlot. Like how's that herd building? If we're actively building this herd because now there's pasture out there and these guys can build that cow calf situation back up, man, you could be looking at some feeder cattle coming in the spring that could be extraordinarily high.
All right, Jacob. Well, if folks want to pick your brains at agmarket.net, the whole team there, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Always take a look at our website there, agmarket.net. Go take a 30-day free trial of our intel. All of our information will come to you. We got some exciting changes coming here in the fall, and we just you can look at each one of us up there individually on the About Us part. You can give us a call. The phone numbers are all there on the website.
All right, Jacob. Well, we thank you so much for the insight, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks for having me, guys. Y'all have a good day.
Well, that again was Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and run down the closing numbers. That comes to us courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. July corn was up 10.5 at 6.08 even. December new crop up 4 at 5.41 even. July beans up 3 1/4 at 13.53 1/4. November new crop up a nickel at 11.84 3/4. Soy meal down $4.20 at 3.90.30. Soy oil up $1.37 at 50.56. Chicago wheat up 3 3/4 at 6.40 even. Minneapolis wheat down 2 3/4 at 8.19 1/2. Kansas wheat down 2 at 8.14 1/2. September oats up 3 1/4 at 3.51. August live cattle $2.22 higher at 175.50. August feeders 65 cents higher at 243.25. June lean hogs $2.97 higher at 88.30. July up $4.17 at 88.32. Pork cutouts $2.50 higher at 90.50. Class 3 milk 6 cents. And that's been our ag market recap. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. And when we come back, I talk with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AMPM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, last month, the Supreme Court finally weighed in on two major decisions that the agriculture industry was watching closely. One was over California's Proposition 12, which changed the way that hogs and chickens and egg producers would be able to have their animals in pens. Animal rights activists said it was for the safety of the hogs. People in the ag industry say it is also just an animal rights issue trying to destroy animal agriculture. Well, we didn't get the ruling we wanted on that. We did get a ruling on the Waters of the U.S. rule, which told the EPA that they do not have jurisdiction over every square inch of private property in the United States. We talked with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig about both those decisions. All right, so since we last talked, of course, the Supreme Court has weighed in on two big issues that we've been waiting for them to weigh in on. One didn't quite go the way we hoped, and the other one went probably better than some of us hoped. First, let's talk Prop 12. And of course, we got World Pork Expo coming here next week, so I'm sure it'll be definitely a topic of discussion. But, you know, that didn't turn out quite the way we wanted in that situation where California basically gets to tell everybody else what to do.
No, you're spot on. And certainly as World Pork Expo returns to Iowa, again, it's a great gathering of folks literally from all over the world. And certainly as we've come out of COVID, it's nice to have that more international feel again. I think there's going to be two things very much on people's minds. One is, of course, the market situation in the pork industry. We've got a lot of supply, softening demand, and high cost of production. And really that's been the case for the last couple of months. And so pork industry is staring at down some very, very tough financial situation right now. And then, of course, add on to that the uncertainty and the unclear future that we now see as it relates to Prop 12. So you've got a Supreme Court that did weigh in, upheld Prop 12, certainly did not see that coming, and still trying to fully understand that decision and some of those comments that were made by justices. But I go back to the beginning, right? These are things that I believe that the founding fathers actually envisioned was that you can't have one state dictating to another state, or certainly a large state dictating to a small state how they're going to do business. And I think that's exactly what you've got here. So, it certainly has a right now impact on the pork industry as it relates to trying to sell pork into California, but it opens the door for any number of industries and products and production methods to be now called into question, because all the voters of California have to do is impose the same restrictions on themselves. And apparently the Supreme Court thinks that they can in fact impose that on the rest of the country. So it's pork today, but it'll be many other things, unfortunately, tomorrow.
And it's interesting, as you mentioned, the markets have not been good. And playing devil's advocate for a second, though we know there's a lot of different motivation behind it, they make the comment that it's trying to quell the large corporate farms and try to put them in their place. But the only ones that are really going to be able to afford it are farms that would be like that, the larger farms that have more capital to invest. When you've got a smaller market farmer, small family farm operation, who's already trying to make ends meet in the marketplace the way it is. Right. Now you add on the cost of having to adapt their equipment if they haven't already got some way of fitting into those compliances. It's going to be a burden for them as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely true. So you think about this and you say, so now you have to have, as an industry, as a producer, you've got to try to, you've got to spend capital to comply with something that really is only as good as until the next election cycle, right? Because the voters, once again, or the legislature at any time, can go ahead and change their laws again. And then you would seemingly have to comply with whatever new rules that entails. And so you've got this now never ending, ever changing patchwork of regulations, and you're spot on. It's the large players who actually are better situated to be able to accommodate for that. And who loses in this scenario, right? You've got smaller producers, but also consumers. Let's be really candid here. You drive up the cost of production, you drive up the cost of food, and it's those consumers who can least afford it who are going to be significantly impacted by the increased cost of eggs, the increased cost of pork. And that has gotten lost in this whole discussion, is who really is going to pay for this.
Now, moving over to the other side of the Supreme Court decisions, we did finally get a ruling on WOTUS, and the EPA was finally told where your jurisdiction ends and where the states and the counties have their jurisdiction, and what will basically be construed as a navigable waterway at this time.
Boy, this was a long time coming. Certainly, you go back to Justice Kennedy's significant nexus, standard that was really followed for quite some time. You've had now a whiplash of waters of the U.S. rules that have come out of the Obama, the Trump, and the Biden administrations. And what we finally have is now a better definition, a clearer definition of what is a jurisdictional water for the federal government. And of course, what has to follow on to that is then EPA will have to, adjust the waters of the U.S. rule, we expect, to accommodate for that. And you made a very good point just now, and that's that there's been a misnomer in this whole conversation that somehow, just because a stream is not protected by the federal government under federal jurisdiction, that somehow it's not protected. Not true. Just because something's not under federal jurisdiction doesn't mean it's not under the protection of or under the jurisdiction of a state or a local government, and therefore can be and is protected. So I think this is very good in that it starts to better lay out what is the right role for the federal government and just how far do they reach. Just had a meeting yesterday in my office about some of the challenges that we continue to have around trying to build conservation practices and the permitting that we have to go through because of the Corps of Engineers and waters of the U.S. definitions. So ironically, we're actually being hindered in our ability to do conservation work because of how this has been interpreted in the past. We're hoping for some relief here because we're certainly trying to scale up everything that we're doing on conservation.
And it's one of those things, like you said, I was talking with someone too, with the whole idea of there may be bad players out there that are causing problems, and that's why you have the county government, the state government. And of course, if it's egregious enough, they're going to go to the EPA because that's what the rules are set in place. But again, it was the whole fear of what's going to be constituted on their jurisdiction. I mean,
Right.
I've joked, that my family lives in southern Minnesota. They just got those toad stranglers out there that they had for rain showers. And I asked my mom, I said, she showed me the drown out spot in the cornfield. And I asked her how many river barges she saw going across her cornfield, bringing corn from one side to the other. And she said she hadn't seen any yet.
Yeah, there you go. and yet that had been viewed as having a nexus to something that could carry a barge. And isn't that silly? I mean, really, when you get down to it, it's the concept of what's a navigable water. And you and I both know, and your mother certainly knows, that's not it.
All right, so speaking of water, and that again was Iowa Agriculture Secretary Mike Naig. Let's go ahead and run down that ag weather outlook. Definitely had some hazy sunshine over the past few days. We are seeing some warm temperatures, but hopefully those are going to subside in parts of the state. Of course, though, it has been very dry. We've been hearing reports from southeastern Iowa where 7-inch corn has already started to curl, and that is not good news, and beans have even slowed down in that neck of the woods. Now, of course, rain is needed across the whole state. We did get some sporadic showers last week, but otherwise it's been pretty warm. Now, we're going to see that sunshine continue for a little while, so definitely if you want to get some outdoor activities finished up, whether that's finishing up some planting, getting some spraying done, maybe hanging your laundry out to dry, or maybe even going out there and just getting some lawn cut or the garden planted. But let's see what the National Weather Service has in store for the state in the next 24 hours. Well, we saw that mostly sunny start to the day, and then we're starting to see some more widespread showers start to work their way back into the area, and we're seeing highs again today. Still warm, 85 up to about 90. Now tonight, mostly cloudy skies will start to prevail around the state. Isolated thunderstorms will be possible, and we'll see lows anywhere from the upper 50s to the upper 60s. And then tomorrow, mostly sunny skies in the east, maybe a few chances of some isolated storms. Mostly the chances of storms will be in the west and maybe to the south. We'll see highs in the 80s, maybe up to around 90 in some places. Looking at the affiliate weather map for you tomorrow, as we said, Cherokee will be seeing some isolated storms in 86, Shenandoah storms in 90, Des Moines will be partly cloudy, maybe a chance of some isolated storms in 83, Waterloo sunny in 81, Albia will be cloudy with a chance of some storms in 82, Clinton, chance of some storms, then maybe partly cloudy later on and a high of 82 degrees. For more detailed forecasts in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been the Ag Weather Outlook. And that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Don't forget, we'll be at World Pork Expo at the Iowa State Fairgrounds tomorrow and Thursday for sure, possibly maybe a little bit on Friday, so make sure you're following along for our content there. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and on our YouTube channel. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified every day that we put out a new AMPM episode, or you can keep up with my Brazil series that I started running about 2 weeks ago. You can also find our free Twice Daily Market podcasts on Amazon, Apple, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Riley Smith and Mark Magnuson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.